Hi, in this video we're going to look at how do we evaluate trig expressions or solve simple trig equations using the unit circle. And to do that we'll be looking at all these key points that are formed from special right triangles. Now what's special about the unit circle is that it has a radius equal to 1. So whenever we're looking at our trig functions, such as sine, we know sine is y over r, but because r is equal to 1, the sine is now just the y value. Cosine would be the x value, tan is y over x, and the reciprocal functions would just be the reciprocals of all those things. Now this, just like the unit circle, is just something that you want to memorize. Alright, so evaluating trig expressions. First we have the cosine of 30 degrees. Well, remember that cosine is just the x value. So I go to 30 degrees, I look at the x value, and it's the square root of 3 over 2. It's not so bad, right? We can also do this in radians. So the sine of 7 pi over 6, that's a y value. I go to 7 pi over 6, which is right here. The y value is negative 1/2. Finally, the cotangent of 11 pi over 6. Well, cotangent is x over y. So I go to 11 pi over 6, and I'm going to write the x value over the y. That's the square root of 3 over 2 divided by negative 1/2. These 2's cancel, and I'm left with negative square root of 3. For the next section of the notes, it'll be very helpful to know how each of these things divide. Remember that whenever you're dividing fractions, you should multiply by the reciprocal of the denominator. So go ahead and take a second to try to fill out this chart before just looking at my answers. Alright, so we should have gotten that 1 over 1/2 is 2. 1 over the square root of 3 over 2 is 2 square roots of 3 over 3, and so on. You can just look at these. Remember that you have to rationalize denominators, meaning that you can't leave a square root in a denominator. Solving trig expressions. This is whenever we're solving for theta. Now because many of these angles have the same either x-coordinate or y-coordinate, we're going to have multiple answers, but we'll restrict them between 0 and 2 pi. We could also do this in degrees, but we're going to stick to radians. So the sine of what angle gives me the negative square root of 3 over 2? So that's saying, where are the y values negative square root of 3 over 2? Well, that's going to happen down here. See, we have a y value here and here of negative square root of 3 over 2, so my answers are 4 pi over 3 and 5 pi over 3. And that's all there is to it. So the next, when is the tangent of theta undefined? So remember that tangent is y over x. And to be undefined, this must equal 0, right? Undefined comes from dividing by 0. So I'm looking for any coordinates where the x-coordinate is 0, which happens here at pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2. So my answers are pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2. Finally, let's look at the secant of theta is equal to 2. So knowing all those fractions might really help you figure that one out. But you could also just look at this as, when is the cosine of theta equal to 1/2? Because cosine is the reciprocal of secant, 1/2 is the reciprocal of 2. So basically look for any x-coordinate of a positive 1/2. And that's going to happen up here at pi over 3 and down in the fourth quadrant at 5 pi over 3. Alright, and that's how we simplify trig expressions and solve simple trig equations. And of course, as I'm saying that, I realize that I wrote expressions. These are equations. Sorry about that, internet. Okay? Anyways, that's how we do all the things. Goodbye.